Welcome to Rock and Roll Book Club, where we discuss books by and about musicians and the music business. I'm Dave, and on this episode, my co-host Shelley, Jennifer, and I are discussing Girl in a Band by Kim Gordon. Kim is a founding member of the highly influential punk rock band Sonic Youth. From 1981 until 2011, Kim was the bassist, vocalist, and sometime guitarist for the band. Sonic Youth is often seen as the bridge between 80s underground rock and the mainstream acceptance of alternative music in the 1990s. Kim also performed in bands such as Free Kitten, Bodyhead, Glitterbust, and Ciccone Youth. Her most recent solo album, The Collective, was nominated for a Grammy. She has also worked successfully in the art and fashion worlds as well. She performed in Sonic Youth along with her husband at the time, spoiler alert, Thurston Moore. The Kim and Thurston story in its entirety was told in this book, from their meeting on the Lower East Side of New York City in the early 80s to their divorce in 2011. It is all covered. Girl in a Band is a great memoir that successfully splits the narrative between the personal and professional. This episode doesn't really require a content warning unless you count the three of us swearing. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell. Thanks, as always, for watching Rock and Roll Book Club.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Rock and Roll Book Club. I'm Jen with Shelley and her beautiful hair, and
Aww.
Dave with his beautiful hair, too. Just kidding.
Yeah, not much of it, but a little bit.
This is our 20th book club, and we thank everyone for sticking with us and following us. And if you haven't followed us yet, just hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're good to go. Okay, so this month we read Kim Gordon, Girl in a Band. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Dave to give us a little history on Kim Gordon.
So Kim Gordon is, well, from 1981 until 2011, she was a member of the band Sonic Youth, one of the most important and influential alternative rock bands in the last 40 years. She played bass, she sang, she played guitar at times. She's also a visual artist and a writer, and she's done all sorts of stuff inside of the art world. That'll be discussed, I guess, in the book, because she does drop a lot of artist names.
Whoa, does she?
Yeah.
All sorts of names in here.
Yeah. In addition to Sonic Youth, she's also done the band Ciccone Youth. She's also been in Free Kitten. Since Sonic Youth broke up, she formed a band called Bodyhead, which is a really avant-garde experimental band. She's done solo records, and her 2024 solo album, The Collection, was nominated for a Grammy.
Well, before we read this fantastic book, I knew of Kim Gordon. I have some Sonic Youth records. I was never a deep dive Sonic Youth listener. And some of their stuff, maybe when I was younger, was just a little bit too experimental for me, which I think totally takes cool points off my chart. But I do really love some of their music, and I always thought she was really cool. And I think she's even cooler now. We'll get to that later. But yeah, well aware of Kim Gordon and a fan of Sonic Youth, but not the world's biggest, hugest fan, president of the fan club fan.
Dave?
Yeah, I am a massive fan of Sonic Youth. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. I've seen them a number of times back in the day. Since they broke up in 2011, I've seen 3 of the 4 former members play. Kim is the 4th one. She's the one that I have not seen since Sonic Youth ended. I do a radio show, weekly radio show, terrestrial radio, FM, here in town called New Day Rising, and I close every single show with a Sonic Youth song. So this band is a big deal to me, and I had read this book when it came out about 10 years ago initially, and I read it again for the second time, and I know he comes off as kind of the bad guy, but I did get a gift from a friend of Thurston's book, and they got me a signed copy.
Oh, cool.
Which is nice. Yeah. So anyways, my impression was she's awesome. I've already been a fan.
And you know, I'm with Shelley. I've never that's not so much my genre, but she's always been really, really cool. And I have to tell you, the song, and they talk about it in the book that they cover on that Carpenter's tribute album, If I Were a Carpenter, it's Superstar, right?
Yeah, Superstar.
Yeah, it's I listened to that album so religiously. I had forgotten about it. I'm going to start listening to it again, guys.
Nice.
And I
The
love
Carpenters or the covers album?
the covers and the Carpenters too.
Okay.
It just is what it is. I mean, they just go to a place in my head in the 70s where life was just really easy. Loved this book. I loved it. I think in parts it was maybe a little too detailed. So I really can't imagine what Thurston's is like. But I think there were parts of it where I'm like, okay, let's get to the juice. And then you got to the juice and I was satisfied. But I love this book. I thought it was great. I kind of zoned out a couple of times, but it was a great book. And her voice is awesome. Her reading is just like excellent.
See, so, I liked this book in terms of the way it was done. This is the way I think more rock and roll memoirs should be done, meaning she does have a lot of personal stuff. There is a lot of stuff growing up and, you know, her life and personal stuff, details, juice, you know, but there's also a lot about her career, about her music and about making of albums and about specific tours and eras and stuff. And I am interested in that stuff.
Yes.
You know? I do want to know about that. That is interesting to me. So I'm glad that she includes it with a lot of detail. There's also a lot of stuff that, to me, what felt extraneous was, and we'll get into this because this isn't the wrap up, but like a lot of the name dropping of all those artists. So who painted this picture? Who did this picture? And I mean, I'm asking, are people supposed to know who this is? Like, because I didn't know who almost any of them were, except
same.
And a couple others. But anyways, I did like that from that perspective. She really went into her influences, what got her into making music, and then she talked about the specific albums, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and even name chapters with album names. So like if you were super into one of their albums, you could just sort to that and read or listen to that part, which I think is cool. It's helpful from a reader's experience.
Yeah, it was well written. I think at first I thought that the little tiny chapters would drive me crazy. And then I changed my mind quickly because I love how she wraps them up. She just moved like it was so well written. It really, really flowed. Like I said, there were a couple parts where I'm like, you know, I'm good without this. But Kim Gordon, it was a great fucking book.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really did. I wondered also about the name dropping, but I wouldn't even call it name dropping. And maybe I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt because I've always looked to her to be like this very cool person. Like she does not come off as a name dropper, you know, she doesn't have that vibe as a human, but I think she's just been so connected with so many, you know, art movements and so many musicians and so many, you know, all of these people in New York that she can't really tell her story without dropping names because that is her life, is being surrounded by all of these artists and musicians.
And Don Henley made it in.
Oh my God. I forgot about Don Henley. What did she say about him?
Not much.
Oh.
She just mentioned him.
No, it was at the Neil Young benefit thing, and they played, and they were told they had to play acoustic, and everybody was acoustic except Don Henley, who got to have an electric band just because he's a dick. That's all I'm saying.
Let's talk a little bit about her early life and growing up. She moved to California when she was very young. She is the epitome of the cool California girl. Like I would see her and probably walk the other way because I mean, I'm not that cool.
Well, it's so weird that she has this LA thing because as long as I've known who Kim Gordon was since the 80s, I've always identified her with like New York, hip, cool, whatever. I never would see her as a blonde California girl.
Yeah.
You know, that prototype, and she comes from an academic family, so they probably had some money. You know, she lived a decent life. And I don't see her as the LA girl. I always see her as New York, very
Yeah.
cosmopolitan, very gritty, living in Harlem in some super shitty rat infested dump or whatever, but all their records are there and it's super cool and whatever. That's how I see Kim.
Hey, I don't know much about her at all. And I could see her California influence in her youth kind of carrying on to her life now. I really do. I don't know. I just knowing she had that kind of groovy California beach freedom. I don't know. I think it's something that carried over,
Well, it does. I don't think I knew that she was even from California.
I didn't
until I read the book. I like I said, I always associate her with New York and New York City and downtown, that sort of hip culture and all that shit.
And Bowery and all of that.
Right. CBGBs and all of that scene. And I've never associated her with California, but she has a very strong connection to California.
Yeah.
I just had no idea.
I think I'm going to get ready to dive into her brother, Keller, who I believe was her first intro into dealing with a man who isn't sane. Not that Thurston's not sane, but
right.
Yeah.
By the way, I think he recently passed away.
Keller He did.
Yeah.
I mean, turns out later that he was schizophrenic and had just a whole slew of mental issues. And when you're growing up in the 60s, you don't know that. And he was awful to her, and then he'd be fine. Then he would be awful to her. He would torment the crap out of her. And, since he was the one that was garnering all the attention, she just kind of had to deal with it.
Well, he was the golden child in the family. Yeah. The parents treated him like whatever. And it seems like, according to her anyways, they didn't really want to acknowledge he might have a problem.
Yeah.
It took years and years before they would acknowledge it and do something about it, get him institutionalized or hospitalized or whatever. But yeah, they were just like, oh, just, let it, don't let it bug you,
I think Keller, Keller gave her lifelong damage. I mean, this is lifelong trauma.
He was brilliant, it sounds like. And so I wouldn't doubt that maybe helped downplay some of the things that were really going on. It seems like he knew how to maybe manipulate situations so that it was like, not as big of a deal as it really was to the parents.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting how Kim said that, it was so horrible to be with him when he was, being a dick or like hurting her physically.
Yeah.
But that when they were getting along, like she never felt closer to anyone else in her life. And so it was just this really kind of sad duality of torture and deep, deep love.
Kim is awesome. And she was very much like put up as an example of, a girl in a band or whatever, which I know she was super annoyed at, but it was integrated. It was, men and women in this band. It wasn't like the all girl band situation, like with the Bangles, where they were put off in this corner of like, you're an all girl band. She had to deal with that sort of thing, but she came out from under it, and she was like very bold about it and would put up, that's a bullshit question. If you ask me that shit, like, don't ask me what it's like to be a girl in a band. Like, how fucking dumb is that? She just was such a good example. She didn't need to be she wasn't the spokesperson of Sonic Youth. She didn't do a lot, but she just coolness by example and, her awesomeness by example. The one thing I would disagree with her is when she says she doesn't consider herself a musician. Like, I don't understand how you're in a band for 30 years and you don't consider yourself a musician. Like, that seems sort of silly to me. It's like, just because you don't have any formal training, you've been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
By definition, you just are, so I know it's like, I'm an artist, I'm not really a musician. It's like, well, I mean, okay, you can think that all you want to, but I beg to differ.
But Dave, she's so cool. She can call herself whatever she wants. Like, she is.
I agree. Cool. Look, I agree. She could do whatever the hell she wants. Makes no difference to me. Like, I'm in.
She's like scary cool. Like Arenda's BFF cool. I gotta say, I mean, Kim Gordon, oh my gosh, she's awesome.
Okay.
So they moved to New York. She moved to New York.
In 1980.
Yes, thank you. And she became a fixture on the scene.
Okay, so she met Thurston Moore at a party or through an introduction. I can't remember the specifics, but she had been playing a little bit by herself. She had a guitar. I can't remember the name of the guitar, but it had a specific name to it. The Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
She had this guitar, the Drifter, and she met Thurston Moore, and there was maybe a little bit of a spark there. And when he showed up to her apartment and he saw the guitar, he was like, I know that guitar. That's the Drifter. He had actually played it when it belonged to its previous owner. Mm-hmm. So that was a little spark. They decided they wanted to try playing together. And Lee Ronaldo was a friend of Thurston Moore's. So they were a trio. Their first drummer, a guy, Richard, I'm blanking on his name. You would recognize him because he's an actor. He was only in Sonic Youth for a couple of months, and he has an IMDb page. He's done some Jim Jarmusch movies and stuff like that. So he didn't last long. The next drummer they got was Bob Burt. They were still super underground. That guy left because he thought the band Pussy Galore was going to be bigger, and so he went to them. Then the Sonic Youth lineup formed in 85, the final version of it. But yeah, they were very odd, experimental, playing in front of 6 people or whatever, and a very, very unique and strange band in the early 80s New York art scene. And they're incorrectly called no wave and stuff. And I like how Kim points out that is not true. Mm-hmm. That they are not a no wave band. They're way too melodic for that. I mean, their stuff you can sing along to it. No wave, you can't. It's mm-hmm. just noise. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's how they formed. Kurt Cobain and Nirvana signed to Geffen Records because Sonic Youth created the permission structure to do it. Like when you were an underground punk band, the worst thing you could do is be involved in a corporate label. And mm-hmm. as soon as Sonic Youth did it and made it okay, then it was okay for Nirvana. And then Nirvana blew up. And, it was like so you say Nirvana changed the culture, but Sonic Youth created the space where Nirvana could change the culture. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. that's why a big part of it. So she is a huge part of that, but mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to say it was just her because I know Thurston, is a huge part of it. And I know he's a dick and all now that everybody doesn't like him because of this book. And I totally get it. Hey, how did we not mention that she dated Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo in high school and dumped him? And he said he was humiliated by her and like he was all hurt and whatever. And Danny Elfman, that guy's huge. All the Tim Burton movies, he does the sports and stuff. That was a revelation when the first time I read the book. I had never heard that. And so that was just like, what? Like that was some juice.
That was some juice.
There's also some juice in here, guys. Tons of juice. I'm the only parent here. Mm-hmm. And what she said and how she phrased everything, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's it. That's it.
In the context of Sonic Youth, that was 1994. And I always use this as a trivia question on my radio show. I say, what is the only Sonic Youth album that the band did not tour in support of? And it's the album Experimental, Jet Set, Trash, and No Star because Kim was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And in the video for Bull in the Heather, the single from that album, she's pregnant in the video. And guess who else stars in that video?
Kathleen Hanna.
Correct. Kathleen Hanna stars in that video.
Coco, I mean, she grew up on the road. I mean, whether it was with a sitter or a nanny, but I mean, they were really good parents.
They were, and I think that gets forgotten. I mean, Coco is an aspiring model, and I follow her on Instagram. I've been following her for a long time on Instagram. I don't really know like a lot of what she does. It's kind of like Frances Bean Cobain. It's like I follow her too. I don't really care that much what they do. It's more just interesting to me. But yeah, by all accounts, they were great parents and they didn't let their divorce which is important, you know, when divorces happen, to like not let one attack the other and turn again, you know, like by all accounts, Coco has a good relationship with Thurston as well as with Kim.
Well, and let's talk about the fact that when Coco was kind of getting herself out in the world and doing those things, and there was something that she did. It was music, remember? And they went and saw her, and they were like, "This is our kid." I mean, she was just up there, and Kim said she was swaying with the mic like cool enough to make it not look like she was doing it. I'm like that. Do you guys remember that part?
Yeah, I remember her saying that it reminded her of her, but she had more confidence than Kim.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, look at their DNA. I mean, you have two parents who are just so fucking cutting edge and so cool. And then you have that DNA. Now, different than Frances Bean, who has Kurt Cobain, but she also has Courtney. Mm-hmm. So there's the crazy DNA. There's none of that with Thurston and Kim. She got all of the good stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever she did was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But it's so funny because she didn't think her parents were cool at all.
Exactly. And then
like, she opened for a band and Kim asked her, did they know who your parents are? And she's like, oh God, no. I also think that her childhood can be summarized in a scene from the book where she had a favorite stuffed animal, and they were like going to hotels, and it got left like one place, and somebody like from the crew found it and brought it back, and then they're on the streets of New York, and she drops it and a cab runs over it, but the cabbie gets out and runs it back to her. And it's like, that is truly like the life of a child of rock stars in New York City.
Yeah.
Punk rockers in New York City.
Yeah.
About like going to the clubs and all of that. She's like, there's no bathroom stalls at CBGB. Like you can't take your kid into the bathroom. Like it's gritty and gross.
I kind of wondered if them moving to Massachusetts was the beginning of the end of the marriage, because Thurston maybe didn't crave the domesticity as much as Kim did. And not to say that Kim was like ready to, you know, give it all up and just stay home or whatever. But I think she knew that they needed that space for their daughter, and they needed the yard, and they needed neighbors she could talk to. And maybe Thurston didn't quite value that as much and wanted to just be in New York and doing his own thing.
So he had a place to go there, or the rehearsal space. They always had a rehearsal space, so he could bring girls there if he wanted to. Not saying he did, but he could have. That would have presented the opportunity.
She had kind of had some suspicions. I mean, as I assume you would. And they were true. And he was involved with a woman that was on the tour, right? Was she on the tour? Or she was
she was introduced to the band through somebody that they knew, and she got herself ensconced in their sort of world.
She was writing a book or editing a book, like a mixtape book, and she first approached Kim to edit it or to, I don't know, give feedback on it or be involved in the process somehow. And Kim was like, yeah, I'm good, because once again, she's like, that one is trouble.
Yep.
And so then she approaches Thurston and he does it.
Yeah.
And then that's when the woman starts to, I mean, they're both responsible, but it sounds like the woman was really just trying to worm her way in any way she could.
And see, I thought, I had initially heard the story was that it was a band member of Ciccone Youth, and it's outside of the core 4 people in the band. They at times had Mark Ibold from Pavement as a bass player when Kim switched to guitar. Mm-hmm. And they had another guy whose name I'm blanking on right now that played guitar with them, Jim O'Rourke, for a little while. I had thought that it was Mark Ibold that introduced this, like that it was his girlfriend. And then she went with, but I don't think Mark Ibold was really involved. I think that was a misread. Like, I don't think that was true. There might have been some issue with the girlfriend, with Mark Ibold's girlfriend, but it wasn't his girlfriend, I think, that became Thurston's, paramour or whatever the term is. But yeah. And she knew something was up, and she was right. I mean,
well, and that close associate of the band that dated her first, she talks about how he was just like Mr. No technology whatsoever. He's off the grid. He's, analog. And then he starts dating this woman who ends up being the mistress. And that it was like the minute he got off stage, he had to call her. And like, he was just like always carrying the phone, and he only had her number, or she only was the only one that had his number to the phone. And he was just like head over heels with her, but then it just like stopped. And so it sounded like everyone was surprised that Thurston became involved in her, because they had all seen how she seemed manipulative and maybe not super stable, and someone that is, a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Her.
Yeah. And, the part that is the indefensible part for Thurston, and the part that made me really disappointed in him on a personal level, even though, again, I don't know these people. I don't, so that's the caveat. I don't actually know them, but I was a little disappointed with Thurston, because the story goes, as Kim explains it, they were in marriage counseling. He admitted that he was having this affair, but he said he would not see her again. Done, 100% donezo. And then, like 2 weeks later, Kim notices he's still getting texts from her, and the relationship never really stopped. He just completely lied. And, at that point, it's just like, dude, I mean, you're really in indefensible territory. And look what you have. You have this awesome wife. Now, maybe Kim sucks as a person I doubt that,
Highly doubtful.
I highly doubt it.
Dave,
right?
don't talk bad about our BFF. Come on.
She was the ideal person for him. They were so perfect together. Everything that they meant, everything they meant to the scene, they don't have to care about that. But it was like, people did put them up on this pedestal. Like, it was Kim and Thurston, man. Okay, that when that ended, it was just like, wow,
I think Thurston wanted to have his cake and eat it too.
Sure, he did.
He did, but part of it, though, is like, yeah, he wanted his freedom, I guess, and he wanted this younger girl. He was having a little bit of a midlife crisis or something, but he's not dumb enough to, like, he had to know that once he was caught, Sonic Youth is over. He threw it away. Like, he really didn't care, and that's the other real disappointing thing, is he knew what he was doing would end the band. But
they're together today.
Are they still together?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
They're still together. I don't know if they get married. I'm not sure.
The description of their final show sounded brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
dude.
That was how the book opens, really, is at their final show. And they was down in South America, and they weren't talking. And, she made the comment, and, Shelley, you might know more about this than I would, but she was like, when you start to realize that you're like not in love anymore or not interested, every tiny little thing that they do pisses you off to such an extreme degree that you just could barely contain yourself. And you never noticed it before, but now every little thing is just pissing you off. And that's what she was describing at those final Sonic Youth shows, of being stuck with him, and like every single thing, a little, he just gave a high five to some guy. What a fucking asshole. Like, why would he do that? Like, whatever. So I thought that part was pretty interesting.
Well, hindsight is 20/20, and I think she was starting to see which things were more put on, like that really rang false to her, because she's like, they're not even close, and he would never do that to somebody. Like, that was just stage antics. And I thought her biggest diss to Thurston, in terms of just like being a cool rock star, was when she talked about how before a show, he was saying like, no, you gotta scream and then fall down. You don't fall down and then scream. Like, he was orchestrating his moves, to like make it look like he was just so enthralled with the music. But when in actuality, he had been like planning that. Yeah. And that's like, I mean, especially if you're a Gen Xer, that is such a major diss of like, cool is cool because you're authentic. Cool is not planned. Cool is not planned. And I will stand by that to this day. If you are truly cool, you are comfortable with yourself, and that is what makes you cool. That's what makes Kim cool, is that she is like comfortable with herself and did the things that she wanted to do, even if it broke with form. And so that to me was like, ouch, damn. Woo. I bet Thurston hated that. Some things up here that I've been ruminating on as we've been talking, and I'd like to take a minute to release them. All right, here we go. Okay, so we didn't talk a whole lot about Kim Gordon's childhood and her relationship with her father, who, when he dies, gets like one line in the book. I was like, she's like, yeah, and so then my dad died anyway at the next show. And I was like, oh, shit.
And
but she did say she loved him very much. But, she was very much secondary to her brother and stayed quiet and chill because that was kind of her role in the family. It felt like she didn't have a super close relationship with her father and that he was perfectly fine with her being in the background. And then we get Thurston Moore. And I think her hindsight look at that, at her marriage, was, wow, I really took a back seat to let him be the big, cool fucking rock star.
Yes.
And so I think she recognized, and she acknowledges this in the book, that there's this pattern of her relationships with men that started from an early age and then played out in her marriage. What I think was really cool is the way that the book ended, and it had this very meaningful and abrupt stop that I felt like was very Sonic Youth stylistically. Like their music has some of those, stops that, I don't know, it made me recall that. But the ending, spoiler everybody, I mean, it's been out for like 10, 15 years, so I think we're good. But is that this is post-divorce, post-Thurston. She runs into a guy that she's been with before, or she's met before, and she's like, he's super good looking, he's super charming. And so he gives her a ride home, and they're like hardcore making out in his car. And she had to get on a plane in 2 hours. And so she was like, I gotta go. And he looked at her like, what? You're not going to just like do it with me right here in the car? And she's like, no, I gotta go. And to me, that was like, yes, like that was Kim being like, fuck this. No guy is going to like put my shit in the background. Like, I got shit to do. I'm going to do it. I'm changing my relationship with men.
The Wolf, in addition to Courtney Love, I mean, the Wolf, sadly, I mean, it's Thurston. I mean, I don't know. The Lamb, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's Keller, because I don't think he ever meant to cause any harm. He was just sick.
Yeah.
And she came to a point, around the time, and she came to the conclusion about it. And she spent a lot of time with him in the end. And her Coco would go, and they spent time with him. So I think I'm sure the understanding of it all happened a long time before, but I don't think he was how he was without everyone understanding the mental illness. So, when he was good, he was great. I mean, as most things go with mental illness. And then I think the survivor is Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my two. So Thurston, Keller, and Kim.
So, what popped in my head for Wolf was Keller, just because it had such a huge impact on her life. And, it just caused her like a lot of fear and consternation in her childhood. But I also agree with your point that he could be the Lamb, because, he was dealing with so much and couldn't help the ways in which he acted. I would think to a large extent. I don't know. But I agree with you. So maybe there's, I'm like, now I don't want to say wolf, but I'm just going to go ahead and say Keller was the wolf. Lamb. I'm just going to say Mark Ibold because I love Pavement. And he always seemed like such a super sweet guy and member of Pavement. So I'm going to make Mark Ibold my lamb. And I mean, Ultimate Survivor, how could it not be Kim Gordon? Because she's awesome. And obviously Sonic Youth's music, but she's fucking awesome. Yeah, I think the Survivor is her coolness in my heart.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Okay. I mean, it's hard not to say Thurston is the wolf in this case. I mean, I'd like to come up with somebody else, but there really wasn't anybody that really was all that bad in her life other than Thurston. I mean, I can't cite a real example of somebody being rude or the guy who hugged a little too strong or whatever. Like, does that put him as wolf category? No. So Thurston, I guess, will be my wolf. The lamb, this is going to be an odd one. I'm going to say the other members of Sonic Youth, because they had to be in a band with a married couple for 30 years. Yeah. And if you can imagine riding around in a van with 4 people, you're stuck together and the couple is in a fight or something. That would be the most excruciating situation.
She did say she made a point of not bickering with Thurston in front of the band.
I think that's probably her opinion and not necessarily the way it really shook out. But hey, that's fine. I just think when you spend 24 hours a day living in each other's back pocket, the idea that they're never going to fight with the other people, in front of them is just, fodder. I don't believe it. And as far as the Survivor, yeah, Kim, I mean, they look, all of the former members of Sonic Youth have made interesting music since they left, since the band broke up. Thurston wrote a book. He's had a couple of albums and whatever, but Kim has really distinguished herself beyond Sonic Youth. When that album came out last year with that trap song and it was all over TikTok and everything, these people weren't into it because they liked Sonic Youth. They had no idea who the fuck she was and they were digging it. Mm. That's not the same for the other guys. The only people who go see Thurston Moore are Sonic Youth fans.
Yeah.
And the same with Lee Ronaldo. She has developed this new audience and this new sort of thing. So that's why she's the Survivor, I would say, for sure.
Guys, I have a different wolf.
Oh, okay.
It's Thurston Moore's mistress.
Oh yeah, we forgot about her.
She fucking broke up Sonic Youth, man.
Well, look, that's a reason to hate her, but like as we all know, it takes 2 to tango.
It does take 2 to tango, and it really is on Thurston Moore.
And he was the married one. He's the one who broke his vows. She was just being a little slutty, and just trying to go for a married man. That's shitty. But he was the married man.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But she was identified as a wolf before that even happened.
Yeah, she's a little baby wolf.
All right. Well, next time we will be discussing I Am Brian Wilson by, yes, Brian Wilson, obviously. Brian Wilson just passed away. And so it seems like the best time to go back and hear him tell his story and take a peek into his genius. And so that's what we're going to do.
Good. I love it. I'm a huge Brian Wilson fan. He is such a misunderstood, underrated genius.
Well, we'll see. This will be the first book. I respect Brian Wilson a lot. I find the Beach Boys to be absolutely unlistenable garbage. I can't stand it. I just doesn't do anything for me. I respect Brian Wilson and Pet Sounds as an achievement. Getting this on the record, but you start playing the Surfing USA shit, and I'm just like, I'm done.
But that was early. That was like Love Me Do.
Yeah.
Baby,
yes.
You can drive my car.
No, I get it. And like I said, I have respect for the guy. I just have never really appreciated the music outside of Pet Sounds.
Well,
but this will be interesting because he has led a very, very wild life, especially his time in the 70s when he had, and I'm sure we'll discuss it in the book, but there's a time where he was living at home. He never left. And he had sand brought into his living room to be put under the piano so his feet could be in sand when he was playing his piano to write songs because he needed to feel the sand in his feet. I was like, wow, you're like a pretty crazy rock star. Bring sand into your mansion, but hey, cool stuff.
That's like method acting, but for a musician.
Oh God, I would be like, this is going to get all over the house. You're not.
Oh my God. You'll never get rid of all the sand, Brian.
Like it's in the laundry. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway,
Dave, I know that. Yeah, I know that you. You're not a fan of the music, but I just want to say I think we're gonna have fun next week.
We're gonna wrap on this one, our 20th book club, and again, thank you all for following and listening. Whether it's 500 of you sometimes or 55.
Mm-hmm.
Like us.
We like the 500 more.
Totally.
I just to put that out there.
But we still want to thank everyone, though.
Yeah, but yes, thanks regardless, of course.
So yeah, follow us, like us, write us, comment. What am I missing?
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Smack that bell. Hit the bell. Hit the bell. That's enough singing.
It's a good vibration. All right.
We're going to be doing this the entire next episode. It's going to be nothing but Beach Boys puns. Wow.
Yeah. Listen, I was born for this, Dave. Get ready.
Yeah, I will be on like 10 gummies or something. We'll see.
There goes any sponsorship opportunities. All right, guys.
All
right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, kids.